Alexa she started off at Yelp, which is not a bad first gig to jump into product design. And that was like just, I think, a year or two before our interview or so, or it was right around that time.
Yeah, I forget exactly the timeline of things, but it was my first job out of design school professionally. Yeah.
Well done. And then now you're over at Zendesk, right? Making a difference there. So, and you're doing a lot of work with a lot of designers on an individual basis. You're coaching and helping designers, especially in the area of their portfolios, which is what we're going to talk about today. So I'm super excited to have you here, Alexa. So thank you for your time, and thanks for investing in us during this next hour here. So yeah, thank you. Take it away.
All right. So, should I share screen? Did you give me control?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, thank you for mentioning that. I don't know if I made you the co-host yet, but you should still be able to share. I'm going to make you co-host.
Cool.
Yeah. Let's see. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
You see? Awesome.
Yep.
Just move some things around. Oh. Sorry. Trying to, oops. Move some of the Zoom Chrome. There we go. And then let's go into present mode. Okay. Everything look good?
Looks awesome.
Okay, great. So yeah, like Jason said, we are here today to talk about portfolios, and it is something that is very, very top of mind for me, and I love talking about it. So I know your portfolio, if you're getting into UX for like you're looking for your first job, is especially like one of the most important things. It's like the key to getting a job, and so I really enjoy talking about them because I've got a lot of experience with reviewing them and talking to a lot of people on a personal level, and so I've come up with this sort of perspective, I think, on portfolios that is maybe a little bit fresh. And so I'm hoping to bring that conversation to everyone today. Jason, can you remind me I just want to track on time, but how much time did we have scheduled for me to talk? Is it 20?
Yeah, let's do about a 20 to 25 minutes. You could actually do 25 minutes. I don't know how many folks are going to share their portfolio today. So why don't we'll go 25 minutes, and then we'll kind of take it from there. See, hopefully we have a few live portfolio reviews.
Okay, awesome. Yes, I'm super excited for that too. So perfect. I just want to check on time. So
yeah,
my presentation today about portfolios is going to be about telling the right story at the right time, and why you actually need two types of portfolios, not just one. So we'll get into that, but I wanted to give a little bit more background on myself first. Here we are. So I'm Alexa. I'm a senior product designer at Zendesk, like Jason mentioned. A little bit more background for me. I studied graphic design. I got a BFA at California College of the Arts. It's a design school out here in San Francisco. While I was there, I completed 3 UX design internships. I'm a huge advocate for internships. And I know they're hard to get and there's not a lot out there, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. Made a really big difference in my life and my career. I also have done about 5 years in business software design, both at my time at Yelp and at Zendesk. So I've been more on the business side of product versus on the consumer side. And that was sort of a happy accident, but I think it was really great for me in my career. And I've loved learning about the business side of, software design. And then I've also been doing about 1.5 years on YouTube. So for those of you who don't know, I have a YouTube channel. I make videos it's the image on the right there. I make videos about product design, careers in tech, and life in San Francisco. It's been a super rewarding experience, and it's been really cool for me because I've been able to connect with so many more people than I ever had before. Just being in San Francisco, you connect with a lot of people just because the energy here, I think, and the design community is large. But there's just a lot of energy for design in the community here. And so this really has allowed me to expand that past San Francisco, even past the United States. And so I've got a bunch of videos on there where I'm trying to help people with learning about UX and product design and helping them transition their careers if that's what they want to do or get into it for the first time. So definitely go check out my YouTube channel later if you're curious to see what I've got there. I also think
definitely follow her on YouTube, Defenders. I forgot to mention that. She's got a great channel, a lot of really helpful videos. Definitely check it out. Do you have a URL, a quick URL?
So I think I have it at the end or at my website at the end. So the
okay.
URL basically it's just youtube.com/hello, I'm Alexa, and you'll find me.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I also think that storytelling is super important, and that's what we'll be talking a lot about today later on as well. But I included 2 other images in here because they're a huge part of, I guess, what I talk about usually when I talk about myself. So basketball being one of them. Basketball has been a huge part of my life. I've learned a lot of skills through, I guess more like soft skills, right? Like through growing up and playing basketball, things like perseverance, teamwork, hard work, like a lot of things that I've learned growing up and how I apply to my professional self now, I attribute to playing basketball. Image of one of the teams that I'm on here in San Francisco where we just won the championship. And then the image below is an image of matcha, which if you do follow me on social media or my YouTube channel or anything, you will know that I drink a lot of matcha, and it's also a huge part of my life and it brings me joy. And so that's an image of matcha from Samovar. It's very good. So before we jump into talking about portfolios, I wanted to talk a little bit more about what I do professionally, give you a little bit more context, right? So I did work at Yelp previously, but now I'm at a company, a enterprise software company called Zendesk. And at Zendesk, we are building software for the best customer experiences, which often comes in the different channels of communication that allow businesses to communicate with their customers. And so some of these examples are below. So we have a support product, which is like ticketing, guide product, which is a help center software, chat is live chat, talk, call center. So we have a number of these tools that allow businesses to communicate and connect with their customers and provide them the best customer experience. So what do I work on though? I don't work on any of those individual products. I actually work on essentially like the buying experience. So it's really how do customers buy and manage their Zendesk subscriptions. So the screenshot on the right is just an image of where I'm spending a lot of my time thinking through how we want to integrate new products, like create new ways of allowing people to purchase our products. We bought 3 companies just the time that I've been at Zendesk for just over 2 years. And so there's a lot of different ways people could buy and manage their Zendesk subscriptions. And it's very, very complicated. We're not going to talk about it today, but I'm happy to talk about this sort of stuff at a later date if anyone's curious. But this is like my day in and day out. It's not just this screen, obviously. Like when we think about buying, we're thinking about the whole buying experience. There's many different touch points, but I do spend a lot of my time in here in the subscription. So with that, let's talk about portfolios. So I can't talk about portfolios without talking about my YouTube channel because, and actually just like why I got on YouTube in the first place. They're very related. So I started my YouTube channel for, I like to say 3 reasons. One of the reasons was because I was just curious about video. Like I wanted to learn video production, how to like tell a story in this like dynamic way. There's so many different ways that video allows you to share and I guess like create connection really, right? So I want to just learn the ins and outs of production, video, and film. So that was one reason. Another reason was because I wanted to get better at public speaking. And I remember the year before I started my YouTube channel that I had a couple opportunities to be on camera and speak like my truth into the camera and like share it with a wider audience. And I just freaked out. And I was like, oh, like afterwards reflecting on it, you know, I did it and I did one of them. I didn't do the other, but I wasn't like satisfied with how I communicated my thoughts. And so I was like, I want to get better at public speaking. Like what's one way I could do that? And it was right around the time I was thinking about video and storytelling. And so I thought like, wow, like maybe, you know, starting a YouTube channel could help me perfect some of those skills that I wanted to perfect in order to share my story, my truth with more people, and then again ultimately connect, right? And so that aligned really well with the third reason that I ended up starting a YouTube channel. And the third reason was because I had been connecting with a lot of people out here in San Francisco who wanted to get into UX, whether it was students or people transitioning their careers. I was connecting with a lot of people, meeting up with a lot of people for coffee and tea and doing like portfolio reviews. I mean, I got a lot of emails about it too. These are just some screen grabs from different email threads that I had from a while back from when I published this video initially. And it's a really common topic, right? And so there's really nothing like sitting down and having one-on-one time with someone to like review their work and like, you know, just be there and like listen to them and help in any way you can them to get get them to where they need to go next in order to fulfill their goals and their dreams. But I also recognize that, hey, I'm sitting down with a lot of people. I'm sharing a lot of the same stories. What if I was able to package these stories into a video and then share that out with even more people? And so it's like, okay, I want to get into video. I want to get better at public speaking. I know a lot about UX and product design, and hey, I've got a lot of stories to tell. Like that could be what I talk, like that's what I could make my YouTube channel about. And so that's how my YouTube channel came to be. And I do talk about portfolios a bit on my channel. This is a couple of images from one of my videos where I'm talking about UX designing your UX portfolio, right? Like we're always like in UX design, it's like we're designing for the customer and we're like trying to empathize with them and like you want to humanize it, right? So it's like we got to be thinking about our portfolios in this way as well. And I had a lot of experience by then, not only reviewing portfolios on an individual level with a lot of people who were reaching out to me, but I also had done a good amount of, I had done a number of years already reviewing portfolios professionally, both at Yelp and Zendesk. I've helped recruit, I helped build out the team at Yelp from like 5 people to like 15 or 18, I think, before I left. And at Zendesk, I've also helped in some areas of recruiting. And so I've reviewed a lot of portfolios. So therefore, I've had a lot of this experience being on the other end of them. And so these screen grabs are basically, I had counted out, I think it was 150 sheets of just paper. And I was trying to create this metaphor and like help people visualize, like you are one piece of paper in this stack of 150. And so when you're thinking about your portfolio, you want to think about it in that way. How do you stand out? Like how personalized can you create your work and tell your story that it stands out to someone who's reviewing it? Because these portfolios, the reviews happen really fast. It's a lot different when you meet up with someone that you've reached out to on LinkedIn or like email to like go and meet up with you, and they're spending like 30, 60 minutes with you reviewing your portfolio to help you. That's a lot different than when you are in an actual sending your resume in to get reviewed. Happens really fast. And so I just want to see what this next screen is. Yeah, so basically I've done a lot of portfolio reviewing, both, again, like I said, on the personal side, but also in like a recruiting or like hiring sense. And so what I've discovered through doing all of this work is that I think that there's a lot of really great work out there. People are putting together their work in a very like, they're creating a lot of really great work. It's not that the work is bad. It's that they're telling the wrong story at the wrong time. So what I want to help everyone here today is think about telling the right, maybe this is telling the right story. Oh no, this is, sorry. Let me try that again. So what I discovered is people are telling the right story, right? Like they've got a really clear, consistent, thorough work that they've put together. What they're doing is they're telling it at the wrong time. And so I want to talk with everyone here today about fixing that. So you can tell the right story at the right time. That's what this is about. All right. So with that in mind, the way I like to think about your portfolio is that you actually need to have 2 of them. You need to tell 2 different stories. You have your online portfolio, which is essentially your the public version of you and your work, that story. And you need to have an offline portfolio, which is essentially a private one. Doesn't necessarily need to be like offline, like a physical, like printed out portfolio, but it needs to be the more cohesive, deeper story about you and your work. And so we're going to talk about both of these today. And we'll start with the online portfolio, because this is the one that I think a lot of us are focusing on. And so we'll start there. Let's see. A little slow. Okay. So your online portfolio. This is going to, again, just to reiterate, this is about telling the shorter story of you and your work. Because we want to be thinking about what is the purpose of your online portfolio. Well, it's to capture the attention of a recruiter or a hiring manager, someone who's either design focused or not. You want to capture them. So this has to be, a more concise version of you and your work. So what does that look like? This is usually what I recommend. You want to create let's just like zoom in on your project page. I think your homepage is maybe a different discussion. And also I have some like specific perspective and thoughts on how to like design your homepage to be more effective, but I wanted to zoom in on like a project page today. And so your online project page at a glance, I think, should be these few things in this order. You need to have a final design snapshot. The thing that you've designed needs to be at the beginning. You need to have a very clear problem statement, a goal statement, an overview. So this is like, what type of project is it? Was it a group project, individual, client, personal? You want to include some sort of like insight as to something you learned, like an insight, like a research insight. And then you want to show the solution. This all has to come at the top of your project. And then after that, past that, this is going to be the research and the detail, as much as you want to include. And the top there is, I said I recommend, it's like, it says recommended. This is what I recommend. Something I just want to reiterate with talking about portfolios is that there are going to be a lot of people out there that are going to have a lot of different perspectives on portfolios. And this is my perspective from my experience. And I do have a lot of experience reviewing portfolios in many different contexts. And this is what I've come up with. This is what I think works. But ultimately, you are going to have to figure out what works for you. It means talking to a lot of people, getting your projects reviewed by individual designers, people that you look up to, maybe that are people in your community. You need to talk to a lot of people to figure out what your truth is. And I hope that you resonate with mine, because I do have a lot of experience here, but that doesn't mean that what I'm recommending is going to be what's right for you. So I always just want to like put that out there. But I'll walk you through this online project page at a glance here next. So this is the typical project page of an entry-level product designer that I usually see. On the left is like, it's more like a metaphor. I didn't really put together a project, but it's just like, these are usually the sections that I see. And you can see it's fairly long. I think especially since there's been a lot of these like boot camps and online courses, the idea of a case study has become really popular, which is sort of interesting to me, someone who had gone to a traditional design school and graduated like 4 or 5 years ago. This idea of the case studies and even online courses and boot camps were not popular back then. And so we didn't really think of our portfolios in this way, but I'm seeing a lot of these now. And I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of these boot camps that are like, have been helping people get design jobs and helping basically make design education more like reachable. What's the word? People are able to do online, learn design a lot more like at their own pace and wherever they're located. But anyway, so one of the things that I always see are these like slanted photos at the top of the project page. And like in this example, I see this a lot. In this example, I think what's working is that they're like, if you have an image like this on the top of your page, it's like at least you're showing off the final designs, because you want to always like set the tone with like, this is what I've designed. Like you want to get people excited and like interested about it, like a little snapshot. What doesn't work is this image, these templates. I think there's a time and place for these templates, maybe in more of a marketing sense, maybe as a thumbnail. But when I look at this image on the left, I think about the image on the right. It's just unrealistic. Never have I ever thrown my phone in that way and like, used it to like use one of my apps. Like I've never done that. And similarly, like I've never used my phone on a slant to do anything. And so I don't think this is really an effective way to show off your work. So I would recommend, like, you want an image at the top, you want a snapshot, like I said, because you need to give people sort of just like understanding what your project is about, but I wouldn't make it hard for them to look at the design. So I don't think this is effective. You can use other types of templates if you'd like, but you always want to think about, like, again, you want to make it as realistic. Like if you're in the person who's reviewing shoes, they want to look at your project as if it's realistic, even if it's a school project, even if it's a personal project. So that's one thing. But I really wanted to talk about the sections. So the other thing the thing I see the most often with portfolios, especially case study portfolios, is that there's a lot of words, a lot of context, which is great, because that means that the person who's written this case study has taken a lot of time to think through all of these different like attributes to their project to tell a concise story. However, if you go back and think about you being one of 150, it becomes really unrealistic to expect that a reviewer is going to thoroughly read through your case study in its fullest in order to evaluate your project. So the theme in this talk is always going to be coming back to like thinking about the reviewer, who's reviewing your portfolio, and what context are they reviewing your portfolio? How many other portfolios have they been reviewing? What other work do they have to do that day? Like, context switching from project to project, I take on multiple projects in a quarter. Like context switching between those projects is already a lot of work. And I know like Lex would probably sort of like disagree with that mindset too. It's like, we should be working on one project as a growth designer. We should be working on one project a quarter. Like to take on multiple is to not focus properly, right? But I'm working on multiple projects right now. And so that on top of reviewing portfolios, there's a lot going on in my head. And then to constantly switch to review all of them, it's a lot. So what you want to be doing is to be simplifying and being very intentional about specific pieces of your portfolio to, again, purpose of your online portfolio, get someone excited about you and your work. So another thing I usually see is like multiple personas, usually in like this sort of like templated thing. I think the exercise of putting together multiple personas is probably effective in like getting you to solve the problem properly, or like thinking about who you're designing for. But again, like maybe you just need one, or maybe you don't need to even present it in this way, because you want to be thinking about how to tell the story in a concise and simple way so that it's not dense and doesn't require someone to like read the whole persona to get into the story that you're trying to tell. And also, by the way, maybe you only end up designing for one persona. So now I have to evaluate two and decide on my own which one you're designing for. It's like a lot of context to try and understand in like seconds. Brainstorming, I see a lot of these like, like a picture of someone with Post-its on the wall, showing off that they did the exercise, and like, I don't know, like, I don't know if this is the right context for that either. Like, I'm sure that you did that. Maybe this is better served on like your about page. And also, we haven't talked about the offline portfolio yet, but we'll circle back to your offline portfolio, but images like this could work really well in that context. It's not that any of this work, any of the written content even, is to go to waste. It's all just about, again, thinking through, being intentional about the goal of why you even need an online portfolio in the first place. Same thing with the sketches. Sketches are tricky because people's sketches are often incomprehensible. And so then it just becomes like me looking at sketches. And sure, like, I guess you've done sketches. Like, I don't even think my sketches are at a point where I'd want to like present them on my portfolio because they're just sloppy. But if you put together sketches that are actually showing off something very specific about your project, like, go for it. Otherwise, like, I don't know, what am I looking at? Wireframes too, sort of the same. I see sometimes portfolios that have just like all of their wireframes on there. And I think there could just be a lot of like simplifying that down and being really intentional about what the problem is that you're trying to solve for, and just showing wireframes that maybe like go back to what the purpose of the project is. And then at the end, it's like the final designs. Like, okay, finally, we got to the end of the project. Here's the final designs. Like I got to scroll all the way down to the bottom to even evaluate if this, if I've read your problem statement and I can see that you've designed the solution to match the problem that you initially started with. And so like really, like when I review online portfolios, my process is I like to see a snapshot of the final design. I read the problem statement first. That's the very, very first thing I look for. And if your problem statement isn't written in a way that is clear or even specific, that really sets the tone for the rest of the review. I like to read the goal, the overview, quick insight, and then I want to see this. I want to see the final design because I want to see if your problem statement relates to this. Once you've captured my attention and got me excited, then I'll look into some of those other things. But it's pretty quick. It's pretty quick. I would rather review all that dense like research work with you over a phone call or in person or like in some other context, right? Which is why you need the other portfolio. So this is I think a more effective project page, right? So just to review again, final snapshot, problem, goal, overview, insight, solution, then the research in detail. So your project page, maybe it still looks pretty long, but you put these items at the top and simplify it down so that someone can review it quick. And once you've captured their attention, that's when they'll spend more time with you. That's when they'll want to reach out to you and even look into you more and like try to learn more about like who you are as a person. I always look to the About Me page once I've found a portfolio I think that has strong work, because I want to start to like understand who this person is, and like, you know, I've already reviewed their work in an objective way. Like now we're going to move them on. Like who are we going to be talking to? I want to see how they're going to fit into this team, and you know, yeah, fit into this team. Awesome. So how about your offline portfolio? Now, the offline portfolio, the goal of this part of your portfolio is to tell the deeper story of you and your work. So this is why all of that work that you've done to create a case study does not go to waste. It has to just be taken from your online portfolio to the offline version. So let's talk about this. Basically, your offline portfolio needs to be designed for you to present it, either in a phone call, maybe like a Zoom call like this, like a video conference, or in person. And although these tools are not necessarily offline, like Google Slides, you want to think about, like, it's basically like your private files. So you want to take this case into a presentation like you see on the right, which is a screenshot of the presentation I made to get my job at Zendesk. So some of the, besides Google Slides, I think Keynote, like creating a PDF, these are some great ways to do it. I think Sketch has a presentation mode. Like I've seen someone put together their slides in Sketch that worked for them. So like, you know, just, you have to be able to put it in this format, basically. And so I did put together some slides here that are straight from my presentation when I was trying to get the job at Zendesk. And we haven't talked about this that much, but when I say that your offline portfolio is the deeper story of you and your work, I do mean you as a person and your work. And so I always think it's really important that before you go into talking about your work with anyone, you want to tell your story. And once you've gotten past the review process initially, you've captured their attention, this is your time to shine. So you have to really have thought through what makes you different, what makes you someone who's going to be the person that they need on their team. And you have this opportunity now, they've given you your time to tell it, you have to think through it. And so these are some things for me. So I always like to talk about where I'm from. This was like where I grew up, where I went to school first, where I went to school second, now I'm in San Francisco. Back at, I guess like 2.5 years ago, I was using emojis to sort of like brand myself. So both on my resume and in my presentation, I used emojis to, as like a differentiator for myself. I should have included my resume in here, but basically like instead of having, well, not instead of, but to supplement the titles to my like education, work background, interests, tools, I put emojis next to them. So it was like, there were emojis included to sort of make it a little bit more fun, show my personality. And so in my presentation, I talked about my 4 favorite emojis. And this allowed me to talk about basketball. Allowed me to talk about perseverance, which is one of my very favorite words. The emoji on the 4th emoji is actually the perseverance emoji. Allowed me to tell the story about how I learned what perseverance was for the first time, and really give some context as to why that applies to my work professionally now. I included this quote, I guess it's not really a quote, but this like this sentence that I still have on my website now today, which is sort of like my purpose statement or like how I approach my work. And I wanted to set the tone for this before I went into actually talking about my work. I also included, let's see if I can get this to work. I also included a couple of side projects before I went and talked about my professional work. I had at the time done this 12 days of DIY project with my friend Amy, where we actually created, we were creating 12 do-it-yourself events where we were like managing attendees and supplies and collecting money. And it was like, we made this real thing. It was really cool. And I wanted to talk about that. Like I made something. And then at the bottom was like a side project where I had recognized that through playing in a lot of basketball leagues in the city, that there was this like gap in just like what I felt like was like a poor experience, like being a captain and trying to manage your team, and that there's just like a lot of problems in these organized leagues that like maybe a product or a service could help supplement. And so I was working on the side project, which was on the right, which was which would have been a mobile app. And at the time I was working on a lot of like desktop software products at Yelp. And so this allowed me to like practice these other skills. And it was like a side project, something I was really proud of. So it allowed me to speak about something that I really cared about, again, to like set the tone for me about going in and talking about my professional work at Yelp. And I'm not gonna like show in detail the slides on the right, but just again, I want to emphasize that like I spent a lot of time putting together this presentation. This is like where I spent most of my time putting together my portfolio. And it's like a lot of the basic presentations like skills, I guess, when you're putting together a presentation. It's like you want to use a lot of images, you want to use big text, you want to practice. Like you want to practice this thing because this is your time to shine, and you don't want to be reading what's on the slide and then someone else, someone in the audience is like trying to read it too and they're not listening to you. Like you want to be in control. And so this is where the like case study, at least the order of things, is probably going to be more consistent with what you're used to. Like you want to order the way that you tell a story, like for UX design in that typical way, where in the online portfolio, I'm telling you to kind of like mash it up a bit. But this, you want to tell it in that like consistent way. And that's why that work isn't gone to waste. But putting slides together, like an online portfolio in slides, is going to be a little bit different, right? So to recap, offline portfolio at a glance. You want to make sure you include an about me. You want to include probably 2 projects and include some sort of way to wrap up. Some other tips that I have is you always want to ask a recruiter questions about timing and format of the presentation. So I always recommend people put together at least 2 projects in their offline portfolio because this allows you some variety. Now, typically, you'll have either a 30-minute or a 60-minute presentation, like portfolio review. So if it's 60 minutes, maybe 2 projects is going to fill that time. But if it's 30 minutes, it's probably going to be a project. And so that just means that you don't include one like your second project, but you have it handy. Because sometimes people want to still understand if you know a certain skill. If they ask you about it, you can say, oh, actually, yes, like I do know that skill. I've done that before. I have this other project. I didn't present it, but do you mind if I just pull up some slides here so I can show you? Boom, you have it ready. And so, maybe you have a 45-minute presentation. You want to ask them because they will tell you like very exactly what the day will be like, or what the interview will be like. So maybe it's 45 minutes. So maybe you spend a little bit more time talking about a project, or maybe you just bring in a couple of elements from your second project. Maybe you spend more time talking about yourself, which I think is really important. So it's all about being prepared and being intentional about your work. And about how you talk about you and your work. And then always have a full, complete offline portfolio ready to share. So yeah, it means that sure, you're spending a lot of time putting together your online portfolio, but you need to put together the offline one simultaneously. I think you need to have both of them really prepared if you're going into an interview. And I don't think a lot of people are thinking about the offline one at the same time that they're making the online one. And sometimes people share their online ones. However, the ones I've seen where people share like a website, they're often not as like in control, basically, of presenting. And this is your time to shine, so you want to be in control. And with that, I think that's it. So if you have any questions, that's my website. You can contact me through there, and I'm very active on Instagram at hello_Alexa and on YouTube. But I think we'll transition into maybe reviewing some portfolios and questions.
Amazing. I really found a lot of value in that, Alexa, and I've never really thought about the offline part of our portfolios. And it is for us because we tend to typically only talk about the online portion and what do we need to include there. So that was really insightful. And I was taking a lot of notes in the midst of this. Defenders, I've got some questions, but I would like to let you ask first for the sake of time. So if you have some questions about what we just learned, please feel free to unmute your line and even your camera and ask away. All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So it's the offline portfolio I think is really interesting. I have leaned away from that for a long time, and I'm curious like how common you think that is. Like I get that a lot of people have like sort of private work that can't be shared online. And I thought your point was great about like your online portfolio is really just about getting people excited. But I'm curious, especially because we work on the internet, I'm just curious how common the offline portfolio is. Like, are you finding that everyone's doing that?
I think it's actually more common for more mid-level to senior level designers to focus on their presentation, like the presentation version of their portfolio. And I think that's why you often, or at least I haven't found a lot of senior level designers with work up online. Like my portfolio right now too is just like, it's more of just like, this is me, this is where you can contact me, this is some of the stuff I'm doing, here's a link to Zendesk, but like my work isn't up there. It's because it gets outdated really fast. So you're only ever really like putting together your projects in that way when you're looking for a job. And also, if you want to be kind of careful about putting it up online because maybe you don't want like the company that you're currently working for get a sense that you're wanting to leave. So I think that it's more of like putting your work up online. Like these online portfolios are, a lot of them are from new designers, and so that's sort of where I'm at with all of this. Seems like. But then like maybe also the more like work that you do professionally, the more just like your growth design community, that's like work. Like that's like, I would say that's a part of your portfolio. And you have a whole website, a lot of work that you've done for that. So that's like, it's a little bit different too. But a lot of new designers don't have stuff like that yet.
That's a great
Cool, yeah.
question. I like that. And I was wondering too I actually was kind of had the similar question. And I'm wondering too about the context of the offline portfolio. It almost appears as though you have to have made it past the first stage of getting your resume reviewed and or possibly, hopefully through networking, maybe you found something and somebody said, yeah, I know Lex Roman. She's awesome. She's an awesome growth designer. Like you just need to bring her into the office for an interview, right? Like it almost seems like that you have to be in the context of an actual in-person interview to present this. At least is what I'm learning, or unless I'm wrong there. Is there value? Is that, first of all, is that accurate? And second of all, is there value in submitting your offline portfolio along with your resume to perhaps give you an edge on the process, getting put to the top of the pile, perhaps more personal?
Yeah. So what was your first question again?
Yeah, I guess, does this have to be done in person? The offline portfolio presentation, is that only done or typically most effectively done in person?
I don't think so. And maybe you design it a little bit differently if you wanted to hand it in. Someone can get more context. It might be a little bit different than your presentation version. But I haven't recently reviewed a lot of senior level designers for Zendesk. But I do remember reading a tweet once from someone who was recruiting like a senior level, at least, designer at Dropbox, who's talking about this as well, and how they receive a lot of the portfolios of senior level designers as PDFs, and they're like looking at that first. And so it is a little bit different. I do think it is more common of higher level people to just send in their offline version. And I don't think that's necessarily like needs to be the way. Once you do have experience, and especially like if you worked at a company like my background, like I worked at Yelp and Zendesk, especially Yelp, like that's a very common company name when for in the United States, and so that already like makes my resume look really strong because it's a brand name. And so just until you've gotten your first job, it's going to be a different level of challenge. And so you just really need to be intentional with every aspect of how you're presenting yourself, both online and offline. An online is your portfolio, online is social media, online is how you email. Offline is maybe like, besides your offline portfolio, it's also like when you're in person with them, stuff like that.
Very nice. Yeah, I think it's also being able to articulate, like you alluded to in your presentation, is being able to articulate in person, have that story to tell, especially in person. If you can get to that point, I think it's really effective to be able to speak to who you are, like know your personal brand. I feel like that's going to be a differentiator, because I think a lot of us can kind of do the same. We're all pretty good at our tools, and right, like what sets you apart. I think that that you're onto something with this offline aspect, because there's thankfully been a really nice movement to really looking at the soft skills of applicants, which I appreciate a lot, because we have to stay human. That's like one of my gospels that I preach a lot. We have to stay human in a technical world. And I think, frankly, as the robots get smarter and smarter, that gives us more and more of an advantage. The more we can go in on that. And I think that's another way to really present that effectively. So I like this a lot.
Yeah, totally. I think there's a question in the chat.
Yeah, there is. There is a question from PX here. He's wondering, can a lo-fi prototype be a final product in a portfolio project?
Nice. So it might depend where you're interviewing. If you are interviewing for a product design job in the San Francisco Bay Area, that's more of a generalist role. And generalists need to have the skills to create final designed work, which means it has to look like you can actually use it for real. And so that's typically what's expected, that you can put the last element on in the UI and like create that thing. Now, this might change as design systems have gotten more prevalent, especially in San Francisco. We have designers and engineers at Zendesk who just work on the design system. And so product designers are not tasked with creating those design systems, basically designing. We're not just tasked with creating components to piece together the designs. We all contribute in one way or another, depending on if there's like needs to be a new pattern created. But I'm still when we're reviewing a portfolio, I still expect to see something that looks final, and a low-fi prototype doesn't seem finished to me. Now, if you're interviewing for a job where it's a more specific role, maybe titles are really tricky, but maybe it is someone who's going to be tasked with just as part of the product design or part of the design process, tasked with heavily working on the beginning stages, then maybe that's enough. I think that bigger companies have more specific, like people who are expert at a very specific part of the process, and they may be hiring for that type of person. I haven't worked at a company like that big yet. I've only worked as a generalist. So I would recommend just trying to make your lo-fi prototype look more final. And I think there's a really easy way you can do that too. At least getting more comfortable with UI design. And that's by just going maybe on your computer or on your phone and finding products that you think are really well designed, screenshotting them, putting them into into Sketch or into Figma or Adobe XD, and trying to recreate it pixel for pixel. This will help you understand typography, contrast, sizing, and you can apply some of what you've learned about those. Like when you do that process, you'll learn just by doing what some of the best practices are. You can apply that to your design, and there you go. I think until you understand the rules, should you break the rules? And so, and that's like that's like a best design practice period. Like I remember learning this in design school with like typography, for example. It's like use no more than 2 fonts. Once you've mastered 2 fonts, then you can try experimenting and breaking the rules. But like master 2 fonts. And once you can do that properly, then you're ready to like get a little weird. But I think that there's a lot you can just learn by like what's already good and what's working out there. It's not necessarily like copying to copy it. Like you're learning, and that's fine.
That's excellent. I love that. We do have a couple of portfolios to review, Alexa. We have about, I don't know, a little over 10 minutes, like 12 minutes. Maybe you could do like the accelerated versions. And if you check the chat there, I don't know if you want to just share your screen and talk through it.
Let's see. So the first one I'm seeing is PX. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the first thing with portfolios I always do if I'm reviewing someone's is I like to ask them what they're looking for feedback on. And so I wonder if, Parker, if you're comfortable with that, either in the chat or if you want to turn your microphone. I don't ever want to provide someone feedback that's something that they already know or they're not looking for feedback on. So is there something in particular that you think you'd like me to focus on?
That's a great question.
Hi, Alexa. How about my first 3 projects in the sense of they're kind of like a online portfolio that you were talking about, because they just have they're like a quick slideshow of each project, and then I give the option of going into more of a deep learning on one of them at least.
Okay. Do you have one that you're most proud of?
Probably just go with the first one.
Okay. So patient diet mobile app.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you're looking for feedback on the like how you're telling the story, or is there a specific section? Okay.
Yeah. So if this page, if this kind of serves as the online example where it's really, slides and a quick overview of the project, and then the learn more button is about the deep dive into.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's a cool idea. I like that. I'm not sure I would have gotten that. I wonder if like this is sort of like maybe you're trying to break the rules and maybe you don't need to yet, because I think when I was on your homepage project, I was expecting to be on a project page, but now I'm on like 3 project pages. You know what I mean? So I wonder if you even like, I wonder if everything that's in Learn More would just go underneath here. That could be a little more consistent with what I'm used to. Is this your photo at the top?
No.
Okay, yeah, it looks like a woman's hand. I don't know. I also learned this in design school too. It's like you always, as much as possible, you want to try to use your own images. And so it kind of looks funny to me because like I see your name is Parker. I don't think that's your hand. And so I wonder if you could try to use your own image there. Like Unsplash is really great. Like I've used Unsplash for like stock images before because they're more realistic, like supplementary photos. But yeah, I just wonder if like this is like a moment for you to like personalize it. But anyway, let's review your voice command entry. So I like that you have your role. I'm going to read the problem statement. You have design, solution, impact, and value. Okay. So problem: discover ways to improve lives for people with digestive diseases. Discover ways to improve lives. I think we should come back to this. It seems a little broad, which I do review a lot of projects that are really broad or like redesigns. And I, in general, think that that's just like a really hard project to sell. It doesn't mean it's not possible, but the more specific your problem statement can be and the more focused, the clearer it will be for me as a reviewer as to understanding, yes, this is a problem, and once I view your solution, recognizing that it goes with the problem. So it's like your problem is to discover. I don't know about that. It's a mobile app with voice entry option in BM, Pay, Notes, and Report sections. Impact and value: increase in tracking and sharing of information, increase use of app by removing text only constraint while providing value with more accurate information for patient healthcare. Okay, let's just review this. So I'm not sure your thumbnail is giving me a good sense of what to expect. I'm not sure if this is a personal project or a real company. I think that would be helpful for me to understand at this point too, because it just allows me to review the project in a different way. If it's a personal project, that's totally fine. It just helps me understand that we're a little bit more in the clouds, like maybe blue skies thinking with the work versus really honing in on the business side of your project. And so that will be helpful to understand. And if it is a mobile app, like it'd be nice to see some of like the final design. I know this may not, based off of your previous question, it may not have final design, but like being able to show in the thumbnail that, hey, this could be a mobile product. Over here on the homepage is going to help me better choose the one project as a reviewer that I will look at. Because at Zendesk, we do have mobile apps, but they're a very, very, very small percentage of our customer base that are using them. So when I look at portfolios to review for Zendesk, I'm looking for desktop software products first. Doesn't mean that a mobile app isn't going to like help me understand you and your process, but if you're like, if you have 10, let's say 10 projects on your portfolio, which I don't recommend, I think 3 is the right amount. But if you did, let's say you had 10 and your like 8th project was a desktop product software by the view of your thumbnail, I would click that one because it's most relevant to me and my company. And that might not be your best work. And so you always want to just like, it's every step in your portfolio, you want to be super, super intentional. And the thumbnail is actually a really important one. And so even if you've worked on the branding or like have created a logo for your project, if it is like a personal one, you're like, unless you're looking for to get into like brand design, or maybe an agency where like you want to do a lot of logos, like it might not be as effective. But I don't know. I'm not sure if is this company real?
No, these are all personal projects.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't think this thumbnail is doing you good at this point. Let's try to get this image to load. See if the next one loads. Okay. All right. So project overview. So this is a lot of text. I'm just gonna scan through it really quick. This is what I usually do. Just want to see what we're working with. Okay. And there's the final. So your problem is to discover ways to improve lives for people with digestive diseases. So you want to help people discover the ways. So like you want them, like if someone has, like is the problem that people with digestive disease don't understand what they have and therefore wait too long and go to the, like need to go to the hospital instead of like being preventative with their care? Like, is that the problem? Like, I'm not sure from this yet, maybe.
Maybe he needs to define the problem, like drill into the problem just a little more with a little more detail.
I think so. I think it just needs to be a little bit more specific. Like I said, like what's the root of it? Like maybe originally you started out in a very broad way, like really like how might we? That's really broad in my opinion. And that's fine. Like you could start there for sure, and that can help inspire you in many ways. But once you have dug deeper into what the project needs to be about, what you're solving for, that should be the problem that you focus on. And that will also help lead your design to become something that is not already out there and really is solving a problem. So if it's like why, what's going on for people with digestive disease? Like why do they need a product for them? Like I said, is it because they don't understand what they have and therefore are waiting too late and are become like bedridden in the hospital? Is there a lot of noise in the other products that are out there as far as like diagnosis, like WebMD, or I think that's like the main one people use. Like what's going on, like what's not working about how people currently understanding digestive disease that requires them to need a new product for that. And you have to kind of like capture that in a problem statement. It can be kind of hard, but it's the very, very first thing that I usually look at. So let's kind of read, so I'm gonna look through this again too. It's a lot of words, I'm not gonna read this if I'm reviewing your portfolio for a job. Parker, you're welcome to send this to me afterwards, after the call, and I can review it more thoroughly. But I think some of the stuff that I said today in my presentation, I would want you to focus on, like really simplifying down, focusing on problem statement, and reordering your Learn More page. Starting off with this, it's really dense. It seems a little bit, like, I don't know if you need all of this. Like, okay, the brief, researching areas which could be improved for GI patients. So what's the difference between that and the problem statement? Client, people with GI diseases. Duration, time, my role. Okay, I don't think you need the methodologies on there. That could be something you put on your resume. Same with tools. Like, I don't think that's necessary. Interviews. So again, this the research, super important. At this point, when you're trying to capture me and understand what the project's about, like how can you simplify this down? I know it's tricky. So this is your persona. So again, I'm not gonna read this necessarily. Like, is there a way you can put me in the mindset of this, like who you're designing for, without that many words? I think you really need, let's go to your final designs. So mobile, oh, that's a prototype. Okay, so you were doing prototype testing. So it looks like, and see how small they are? Like I'm like really like trying to squint in to read it. I'm not sure if it's serving you well in this format. I would probably go like this. Oh, and there's more them in there. Yeah, even though it's a prototype, like if this is what your final output is from from what you've made, it's going to feel so unfinished. That's going to make it hard for me to review. The context, like the words that you put into your designs, are really important. We have people at Zendesk whose job it is to design the words. They're content strategists, and it's a super important part. It's not necessarily like a skill you need to have, but to have like a final project to present, you're gonna have to at least have something more realistic. I don't feel like I can review this properly, but maybe it's not the final design. So I keep kind of going back and forth. Oh, here's something. Also really small, really, really small. Like I have to zoom in to see and it's still blurry. So anyway, like I said, Parker, why don't you follow up with me on email if you'd like to talk more about it. I can actually read through your project. But if we have a little bit of more time, I thought there was another project in there I could take a look at.
Okay.
What do you think?
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks, Parker. Great. That was really insightful.
Should we do one more quick?
So yeah, do we have, do y'all have time to do one more real quick one? Let's see. Yes. Yeah. The person submitting it has more time. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Well, let's do a real quick session on this one.
Okay. You just split out there for a second. What'd you say?
Oh, sorry. Let's do a abbreviated, real abbreviated. I got to jump off in like 5 minutes probably.
Perfect. Yep. So same thing. Is it Muriel? Can you just give me a quick, like 1 sentence, 2 sentences, what you're looking for feedback on?
After listening to your presentation, I feel like maybe I need to cut back.
Okay.
So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's see. I'm gonna probably click into that first project. This is also pretty dense.
Alexa, can you share your screen real quick with us?
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
Out of it. Sure. All right.
Oh, there it is. Yes.
Here we are. Okay, cool. Yeah, so here we are. I was thinking this is also kind of dense. This could be on the project page itself. I like that at least this shows me that's a desktop product, maybe responsive. I don't understand what this is. Proposal. So maybe, yeah, I don't exactly know. This is an app, tablet. Okay, so let's click into this first one to see the research and design. Slow. It's okay. At least there's a loader. That's great. I know it's working. I don't know if it's my internet or. There we go. Okay. Overview my role, duration, deliverables. So I don't see a problem statement. That again is the very first thing I look for. If I don't see a problem statement, I do usually look at the overview if it's like a paragraph like that, but I'd be hoping that the problem is in there. It says 24/7 Tech is an organization working to modernize education model in schools today. Their education model uses project-based learning, uses real world scenarios, challenges, and problems. Students improve their knowledge and skills during the designed project periods. I wanted to join the 24/7 UX Design Superstar program because of my interest in using UX design education. And you met with the CEO to discuss how you could improve it. Okay, interesting. I still don't understand what the problem is for this company, and I would probably put that at the top. I don't think you need a process in there. That could be maybe on your about page. Like this is like the standard of design that I usually follow, but hopefully you use this process on all your project pages, and if it's on there on every single one, it's just redundant. Tools, also just like put that on your resume. I don't think that's necessary. Well, there's a problem. Okay, so it's a little bit further down. I'm not gonna read it for now. Same with Parker, if you wanna send me an email, I'd be happy to review this, but we're just gonna look at your project for like how dense it is. This is really dense. Yeah, a lot of words here. There's that post-it note board. Now, this one's like kind of interesting, right? Like I like that you did this, had this layered on top, so maybe it's like helping guide me. This is like a pretty short paragraph. So this is like, I think, more clear. Like I'd probably like read into this one. This is really dense. I'm not gonna read this. This looks like a journey map, which is awesome. I think that's something you definitely want to present in your presentation, but you don't need all of the context to, like when you're presenting, it's gonna be a little bit different, right? Also these, like I can't even, like what's going on here? It's so tiny. Sketches, these are pretty neat sketches, but I don't know. Wireframes, prototype. This is interesting. Maybe this will be the last thing that I say, which is I'm not so, to me this looks like you're designing a design system, which I think is great, but unless you want to become a design systems designer or maybe work at an agency, I would keep this out of this project page. You could have a whole project about designing the design system for this project. Like that could be a separate project because that's really like thorough and dense. And unless you want to do that in your job, like I don't know if it's necessary to talk about here because this project page is supposed to be about the problem you're solving for. And then the last thing I'm going to look for here is the final designs, which I think is this. It says click to enlarge. Oh, okay. I missed that until now. Okay, so there we go. I don't know. It's a little wonky, maybe. Okay, and this also looks like the very last thing I'll say is this looks like a web, like a marketing site, which is great, and you definitely apply UX design principles to marketing websites. But if you're looking for a job as a product designer, the marketing websites are typically not the best projects to have and present to get that job because designing products are a little bit different. And a marketing website is something that our brand design team works on. And so again, if you want to work at an agency where there's more variety to the job, where you might be working on products and marketing, this could be a good project for you. But if you're looking for a job as a product designer working on like the Zendesk software, it's going to be better for you to include more projects that are more aligned with actually designing products. That makes sense?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Yeah, awesome. 5 minutes.
Super helpful, Alexa. Thank you. And just before we go here, I just got a really great takeaway from the session that when you just reviewed Muriel's portfolio. I just got a really good takeaway. I think we can all kind of take this away. Only show on your online portfolio the things you truly want to be working on. I think that was like the biggest takeaway for me. Like, if it's not something you really want to be doing, omit it. Don't show it on your portfolio. And I can kind of really quickly, I'll tell you that the job I have now, thankfully my role has evolved a lot and into doing a lot more user experience design. But I'll be honest with you, like when I got the job there, I had only done a lot of agency work for a long time. I had done a lot of agency, and a lot of that's graphic design, a lot of it's UI, and I like UI a lot, so I was okay presenting some of that. But when I think about the way my portfolio looked about 6-7 years ago, it was very visual design heavy. And so no wonder the role I landed was a lot of visual design. Even though I wanted to really, like, I thought, oh, if I get my foot in the door, I'll be able to then kind of start influencing the work that I do. No, it doesn't happen that way. It's sort of like marrying somebody and thinking you can change them. I know that I can change them once we get married. I know it. No, not going to happen. I got a nice LOL from PX on that one. So that was kind of my final takeaway before we go here is like really only show what you want to be doing on your portfolio. Any last words for us, Alexa?
I love that. Yeah, no, just I just want to emphasize how important it is to think about your story and what you're going to bring to the company that you are interviewing for, that you want to interview for. People notice that, right? Like we're just humans, so we want to. I want to learn about you, and don't forget to think about that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Alexa, this has been amazing. Thank you for including your contact info and how we can follow you on YouTube and Instagram. Defenders, definitely do that. And thanks to everybody for staying a little over. Last but not least, I want to say, as always, fight on, my friend.